Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Essential Credentials 2020 interview series. This is kind of a surprise episode, one that I wanted to kind of put between two Ripken collectors. And I talked about it when we got done talking to Will. And when I got done talking to Will and told you that I was going to be speaking with a collector who's been on the podcast before and who had to do something many of us have dreaded over the years that we're collecting, and just thinking in the back of our minds, what would it be like to have to sell my entire collection? And I know that's something that just makes our hairs turn gray, but I'm really excited to talk to Andy and hear about what that journey was like. And thankfully, I won't be forcing him to open any Zenith jumbo size cards and pull out the mini cards super slow on camera. So we're just going to be talking about his experience of selling his collection and what it's been like for him afterwards. So without further ado, let's welcome in Andy Burkett. How you doing, man?
Hey, Matt. Nice to see you again. Nice to be back on the podcast again after a little bit of a hiatus, I'd say.
Yeah, many hours later, man. It's been a hot minute since you've been on here, but you've been really busy with some projects of yours, and so I yeah, this has kind of come at the right time, wrapping up 2020, and yeah, really excited to hear about this experience that you've been through. Maybe you're going to be able to enlighten us and keep us from doing the same, or maybe somebody's going to hear this and go, maybe I should think about it just
Yeah,
after
I
hearing
can
what it
I
was
can
like
be
for
a
you.
good I can be a good cautionary tale, and
That's good though, man. I think we all need to hear about both sides of collecting, whether it's completely always getting stuff in, which was your MO, dude. You were always messaging me back and forth about different cards that you just uncovered, like the gold All or Nothing cards. That was your specialty for me. The EX. Finding those, but then having to see it all go, man, that's going to be interesting to hear about. But how have things been going for you as of late? Are you wrapped up? You kind of wrapped up things at the house. Are you still in the same place and just kind of doing the same thing right now?
well, I moved out of that house. We got that sold and kind of moved away from that. So I've been actually living with a buddy that I work with for the past couple months, and it's been good. It's been real good, actually. A lot better than I thought it would be from this past summer, because we talked about earlier, I had to go through kind of an unexpected sale of the house I've been working on for the past 5 years,
Right.
and I kind of needed to, you know, do that in a hurry and grab a decent amount of cash to do it. And the only way that I really could be able to do it was to sell off the bulk of my collection. So that's
Man,
where it
that
went with that.
we're gonna get into that, a lot for sure. And I just remember, if I can just kind of let everybody know what it was like for me when I heard it through the grapevine. I think I want to say it was Alan or somebody's like, "You're not going to believe what just happened." I'm like, "Okay, what happened? Are you all right? Are you at the hospital?" He's like, "No, no." Somebody we know well decided to sell his cards off, and I'm like, "Nah." Like when he even said it was you, I'm like, "No, I don't believe it." And then obviously I reached out, and you're like, "Yeah, you need to talk to me later. I'm kind of busy right now, So I think it had just happened. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk quickly about, you know, this is something I think a lot of collectors can relate to, Andy. When the pandemic hit, you and I, that was when we were doing our chat and you were opening the Zenith jumbo cards like 5 minutes at a time. We were trying to find like the perfect spot to cut, and we figured out like this. Some of them were higher, some of them were turned, some of them were like almost completely to one side.
Yep, without slicing the card inside and bending it, and as you were
that's
opening
right.
it, even though you
That's
convinced
right.
me to slice open the Ripken that had like a Jose Cruz Jr.
Well,
or a
the A Rod
Stockton.
Gold was in there. I thought, I could have sworn it was going to be
Yeah.
in there. But when we were chatting that day, and we obviously weren't streaming, you were kind of telling me like, I feel like things. I've got like some big changes coming on. Do you feel like the pandemic is what really set all this in motion? You eventually having to decide to move the entire collection.
Me personally, I don't think the pandemic for me anyway, didn't have that much of a sway on me. I mean, I was still working full time throughout. Like I didn't slow down at all, so it wasn't really that type of issue. It was, I mean, I was getting to a point in my collection where I was spending a lot of money on cards, and frankly, I really wasn't, I didn't have much of a direction other than just to pretty much grab whatever I could, whether it be modern, earlier 90s and stuff like that for Ripken. And I found like I wasn't really enjoying it as much as as I used to be. And I was just kind of grabbing stuff to grab stuff, like, oh, this one's going for a decent price, I'll pick it up. Like, but I wasn't getting that special feeling of like, oh, I really can't wait for this card to come in like I used to.
Right.
And like I said, and then with the whole kind of having to sell the house, then like I was like, all right, this is a perfect opportunity to like the perfect time. Like I feel like this is all happening for a reason. Like I feel like I should just get completely out of cards. Like it's kind of controlling my life in a way that I felt like it wasn't going that well. And I just kind of thought, all right, if I can cut this stuff out of my life, then other things will come easier.
Right.
To an extent.
Now, I mean, that's a really interesting thing that you bring up, because there's definitely a time, everybody that's watching right now, everybody that's going to watch this, I think there's a time every year where you feel bogged down by collecting, and it's okay to talk about that because it's a real thing that happens, because many of us, as Will said the other day, are serial hobbyists. Like, we attack it full bore, man, like 110%. We think about cards when we wake up. We think about cards when we go to sleep, and we're out hanging out with friends. Boom, gotta check the phone, make sure we don't miss this auction. I mean, it can be very consuming, right?
It is, yeah. And you get collector's fatigue from it too, I think. Like,
absolutely,
it's overwhelming, and you find yourself looking at your phone 3 or 4 hours a day, just scrolling through eBay or on ComC, like just because like there's got to be a better way to spend my time than to be doing this every single day. Like it turns into an addiction, and it's not healthy to an extent. Like,
right,
if it starts to go on this weird downward spiral where it just you can't stop looking at your phone and trying to find that next card. And then once you get that next card, it's not good enough, so it's like, all right, I got to get the next one, and then the next one, and
right.
It just keeps going and going. There's no end to it. That's what
I will agree with that, and I joke all the time. I'm not into these, like, astronomical signs or whatever you want to call it. Zodiac signs. I'm not really into that, but I'm a Libra, and so I have this thing in my head, like, balance is everything in life. Yep. And it comes the same with collecting, man. And when you get an unbalanced scale where the collection is outweighing all your other personal priorities, I think it can be very overwhelming. And so, I think, we didn't talk all the time. Like, if you and I were living close to each other, I'm sure I would have known a little bit more about this. But now that you say that, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's like when it becomes too much, it's almost, because of the thing with the house needing to be finished, it almost lined up perfectly. We're like, all right, this is a sign. It's got to go.
That's what I kind of felt like. It was, all right, I need X amount of money in a real short amount of time to get the rest of this build done, so the house can get sold, so I don't completely lose out on everything. And
right,
I have this nest egg of cards that I'm really haven't been enjoying the way I should be recently. So this is the perfect time to just get a nice, fresh, clean slate in a way. And so that's kind of what I did.
And it still must have been a really, really tough choice. I do want to show this because I want to remind you and myself that we're going to chat about this toward the end. We're going to kind of take the ride down the hill to sadness and then build Andy back up with positivity, and then we can talk about that right there that Alan posted. So
I'm not out of the game yet, Alan.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We're gonna end on a high, just like a Disney movie. We're gonna crush your hopes and dreams when Bambi's mom gets shot, but then we're gonna bring everything back. Never thought I'd make a Disney reference in here, but the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah.
So, you talk about that fatigue and it being really overwhelming. I do want to tell everybody, like, maybe, you know what, I'll let you do this. Can you paint a picture for us prior to everything being sold? You've done some chats with me when we weren't live, and I could see the collection. How would you describe that collection, man, before it was gone? I mean, what kind of a collection did you have put together of Cal Ripken?
I was kind of classify it as a super collector, I guess. So I think at the top I had around like 3,500 different Ripkins. And like I said, I was like everything from, I had a couple like really awesome like minor league autograph cards of his, which were really rare, and like from when he was actually playing in the minors, he signed them. To I even was buying a lot of modern stuff of Ripken too, because he spanned for since 82 or 80 to 2020. That's 40 years. 40 years of Ripken cards out there to go after. I mean, he's probably got one of the biggest checklists of anybody there. So
I agree.
yeah. I mean, like with this group and everything, my favorites are the 90s stuff, obviously. So like that's what I kind of pursued the most out of my collection. Like I didn't really, if it came down to like buying expensive modern card or an expensive 90s card, it was the 90s card 100% away every single time. But when those 90s cards weren't available, you go after a modern one or go after another rookie or something like that.
Right. I mean, would you agree with me on this? Like your collection too. One thing that I think you enjoyed doing more than most is because Ripken had so many of these, is finding those oddball cards. I know Alan has really taken a liking to finding those Barry Bond, like the Coca-Cola card, and like all these random cards that weren't a big deal back then, but then like a printing variation or some kind of thing. I figured like you were the guy to go to ask about things like that. Do you feel like that was one of the more enjoyable focuses that you had on your collection?
Yeah, like I always loved finding stuff. There's some collectors out there that won't pick up anything that's not on the actual checklist. Like if it's not listed in Beckett, then they don't want anything to do with it. But I love like the unreleased stuff. I love, like you said, printing variations, uncut cards, like unnumbered cards, like the salesman sample cards, like the Star Punch cards. Like there's so many like varieties of stuff, like, and it's rare stuff that like there's maybe only 2 or 3 of them out there, and nobody has a clue. Nobody really cares. Like, but to me, like I just like seeing rare stuff that you don't see every day, and to have those in your collection a lot of the times for relatively cheap for the most part, you can pick up some good stuff like that if you really dig deep and like find those variations. Like, and sometimes you luck into them, sometimes but yeah, I don't know, that always kind of, I was always drawn to that. And like error cards too, like wrong backs and misnamed cards. Like it's just, I don't know, to me those are fun variations to find.
Well,
I did find the All or Nothing gold, by the way. On a side
no,
note,
how did that go? There was a time where I sent you a link, and you and I were pretty sure it was gold, but it was like half gold, right? Or
yeah,
like
it was
that?
weird. It wasn't the real deal, 100%. So
I could have sworn, man. I was like, look how gold that thing is.
Yep. But I finally got one.
Good. And now you have 3 different versions now, right? You got like the halfway between foil paper messing up to full.
Well, the other ones are gone, but now I just got to get the base to get.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a little tidbit to people that Andy might, he didn't sell out forever, right? But I mean, I thought that, again, I always found that to be the most fascinating, that especially with Ripken having so much, Andy, that it's no wonder it was so overwhelming at times and so all consuming, because a guy that has 40 years of baseball cards is a lot harder to track down than a guy that's collecting 5 years of A-Rod, because that was where I was at. It was very easy for me to stay focused and just scroll past Yankees and Rangers cards, which I don't know anybody would want to collect those, but no, but I mean, it was very easy for me to be like, okay, I've seen everything that's been listed today and move on.
And that's the thing. Yeah, you don't, you don't constantly keep looking because you know there's not a ton of stuff left to get.
Mm-hmm.
But with Ripken, it's it's never ending rabbit hole of just more and more and more and more.
Right. Well, especially when he gets put on every checklist that comes out. I'm so excited. Tyler Glass now being a modern player. I'm like, oh, maybe he'll make it on triple threats. Nope. Oh, that's because they got like 30, legends in there. Babe Ruth, Cal Ripken, all these guys. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't like them anymore. But it's got to be tough for you to, you know, have this, or back then at least, have this idea of being a super collector, because with a guy like Ripken, it's never ending. He will continue to be in stuff. He's going to keep signing. They're going to keep finding Gating News memorabilia. So it had to have been really hard for you to be able to stay focused,
I mean,
in
to
some
stay
certain area.
focused, yeah, but I really didn't have a collecting focus. It was like I said, anything that pops up and catches my eye, I was going after it. So
Right. Yeah, that's easy to do when you're collecting him, I would say. So yeah, I definitely understand that. But let's let's just kind of start working our way to the moment that you decided to sell everything. So you were talking about how, okay, the house has to get done. Was was it almost relieving in a way to know that that decision was going to be made, like knowing that you were going to sell it all? Or did you kind of like have a moment, where you're kind of standing over the cards right before you say, all right, it's time to do it, saying, all right, do I really, really want to do this right now? Or were you like, as soon as you thought about it, mine was made up, off you went?
that, yeah, that's how it kind of was for me anyway. I was, you know, it was a means to an end at that point. Like it was, all right, I got to do this in this amount of time and I need this amount of money. So, and that's what it was. Like I didn't have time to really, and I didn't really want to list it all like individually or anything like that because like I don't like listing stuff on eBay because it's time consuming. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just decided that it was, all one fell swoop. I was like, all right, I'm out. This is it. Like it was almost, using the house was a good way for me to not have to make that decision of just standing over it and being, well, maybe I'll keep this one, like maybe I'll try to sell a few of these off. Like it's an all or nothing thing with me anyway. I'm sure people are different, but like for me, I just couldn't just sell off partial and then be happy. Yeah, I did that in the past a couple of times too. Like I sold, I would sell off a couple big ones that I had to fund other things, and then like the collection didn't feel the same afterwards. Like something was missing. You know.
Right. That's like selling the holographics and then being able to get something else to be like, wait, why did I get rid of that card?
I don't have the holographics anymore. I got like
Yeah.
3 of these base cards, but no holographics. So like, what's up? I'm not enjoying this collection nearly as much anymore.
Right. So for anybody that doesn't know, can you talk a little bit about like what is your profession, Andy? Like why? 'Cause I guess I kind of forgot to mention this, but you were finishing a house for not only yourself but for part of your job as well. Am I correct with that?
Well, no, this was like a little side venture.
Okay.
I went in on the house with an investor who kind of fronted most of the cash, and I kind of told him I was kind of towards the end of the house, and like I was not really wanting to continue on with not with the project, but just in the living situation I was in. I kind of wanted to move on from that, and he wanted to sell off the house. During the summer, the market was absolutely insane in the housing
Mm-hmm.
market. So he's like, well, if we're going to do this, then we have to sell it by, August 1st. And this was like middle of July, like
Oh,
early,
jeez.
early to middle of July when, we had our meeting, and it was like, oh, all right. I was hoping for at least a couple more months to wrap up everything I wanted to do. Because, if I didn't get that done, then, my profit margin was going to be, it was going to be harder to sell the house, and what I was going to get return on my investment, like it was going to be almost non-existent. So that's kind of why I had to go about doing that. But
Right.
yeah, I work as a carpenter full time, actually at Pfizer, where they're making the cool vaccine. So it's been
Yeah.
another interesting story for another day.
You're right. Right. Yeah. Another time, man. But I mean, and I will talk about your YouTube channel here toward the end, but I will say that you did post a video of the completed house, and so it was really cool to see where all the money from your cards went and what it went to finishing, because I'd seen little bits of it behind you when you were on the podcast, and definitely recommend people go check that out. I don't think anybody's ever seen a house designed that way before. But
The
how? I mean,
Ripken,
how did you? I mean, this is just for me talking to you. Really, how did you get it done in 2 weeks exactly? I mean, did the money from the Ripkins completely take care of all the things you needed to finish?
yeah, it did. So I don't know. You watched the video, so those
Yeah.
Ripkins paid for that carpet in there. It paid for the back deck. It paid for some painting, some spindles, like a couple dumpsters. So like that's what it went towards.
Okay. All
Nothing
right.
spectacular, but
Nothing spectacular. I
but
mean,
it's
so
like you can't sell a house without carpets. You can't sell a house with a deck that's a third of the way built.
right,
Um,
right. I mean, so once the house, you said it sold really quick, right? Once it went
it
on the
did.
market.
Yeah.
How many days? A week?
Um, they had like over 30 showings in like the first couple days, and then
Wow.
by the end of the they were gonna take offers up through the rest of the week. So it went a week, and they took the best offer, and it's
Nice.
decent amount over asking price, which was nice.
Good.
So
Especially
it
nice
worked.
when
It
people.
worked out. It really did.
It's like on eBay when people are bidding against each other on that Cal Ripken that shouldn't sell for $300, but it sells for 450 because so many extra people want the card, right?
Yep.
So now the cards are gone. The house, moved out of the house. You're in where you're at now.
Yep.
What was that like the first month, 2 months without the cards? Like you weren't looking up cards. You weren't. It was just work and all the other stuff going on in your life. Did you have feelings of missing it, or was it kind of nice to be freed from that burden for a little bit?
It was a little bit of both. Like it sounds weird, but like there was like this little bit of void that was missing. Like because I didn't have the house to work on. I didn't have my collection to like occupy my time. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I still have plenty of side work to do after work and occupy my time that way. But um, other than just like there was no hobbies really to consume my thought process. So it was I did kind of miss it.
Did you find yourself like,
I
ooh,
was
look at
going,
this
yeah.
card?
I was
Look at
like,
this card.
well, I kept in touch with the guy that that I sold off the collection to. He's a
Hmm.
dealer, so I was like, well, I contacted like him one week, and I'm like, well, I'm thinking about just grabbing a few cards back from you if that's cool, like before you list them. He's like, yeah, yeah. He's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, all right, I just want these 3 cards for now. And I talked to him about like, he's like, all right, once you're out, right? He's like, you're not gonna. He's like, I'm not gonna fuel your addiction. I'm
Right,
like, don't worry about it. I just want these couple. Like, I'm not gonna be like a junkie and be like, oh, next week I'll need more.
right,
Just hit me up with a little bit more next week.
yeah.
So I just started. I grabbed a few off of him, and then a couple more, and then he's like, all right. He's like, I'm gonna start listing stuff. So I'm like, all right, you can start listing stuff. I'm like, I'm probably gonna be a bidder on a good amount of the stuff. He's like, oh, that's awesome, but he's like, you sure you want to do that? Like, he's like, again, I don't want to, encourage you to do something that you're not 100% sure of, because like I said, when I
Right,
when I decided I was done, like that was a pretty cold cut decision. Like for what I sold the collection for to him for what it was worth, like I took an absolute bath on it. Like he knows it, I know it, and I'm fine with it because it is what it is. Like I needed to do it. But at the
right,
same time, if I had pieced it out, I could have made 4 or 5 times easily what I sold it off for. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why I didn't want to get back into it, because I was a little upset about that. Like,
right.
like why'd I just waste all this? I left all this money on the table for nothing, basically.
Well, without getting too specific about that, if I ever thought about doing that, I'd have to sit down and price everything out. Like I'd have to
Yeah.
be very meticulous, and obviously you didn't have the time for that. Did you
I
just have like a ballpark in your head, or did you figure it out and come up with a price?
I did. So what I did, like he kind of asked for, like he's like, all right, give me like the top like 150 cards in the collection, and give me a price on what do you think I can sell them for. So I came up with a list of like a little over 200 cards, like, and give him prices on, what he could sell them for, like bottom dollar, what he could unload them for tomorrow, and I know they would sell. So I just wanted to, because he's a pretty big seller, but at the same time, like buying a collection of that size, like you don't know what the market's going to be like. All of a sudden, nobody's buying Ripken stuff, so he's set with this big Ripken collection he doesn't really know all that much about. And yeah, those cards have high Beckett book value, but nobody's buying them. They're worthless.
Right.
So I wanted to prove to him that the value was there in just a certain amount of cards, and the rest of them are icing on the cake to an extent.
Wow. And so, did you basically? So he bought the whole thing for those top 200 and everything else you threw in, or did you just kind of add a small amount on top for the rest of the
Well,
cards?
I told him, I'm like, well, like you can get this just for these cards alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could say, all right, there's 800 more cards that are worth at least $10 in this. So add that on, and then add the autographed baseballs in. Like those go for, anywhere between like 60 and $150. Like, so even at 60, like just say, so I was doing a bare bones, like basement bottom prices, like listing them so that I know he could make a good profit off of it, and like he wouldn't, I wanted to make it beneficial for him and kind of get what I wanted, sooner rather than later,
Right. Well, and that right there,
I
like,
didn't want to negotiate for 3 weeks. I didn't have 3 weeks
yeah,
to negotiate. So
right.
what do you do?
That's a huge factor. I think that a lot of people that if they ever do think about, okay, it's the time for me to sell, I need to remodel the house or do whatever. You really need to, if you want to get top dollar, you've got to be patient and take your time and price everything out,
Yep,
and
that
be
would be my
meticulous
biggest
about it.
section. Yeah, that would be my biggest suggestion to anybody that's thinking about possibly selling
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like, don't rush it because you're not going to get what you want out of it. If you think you're going to unload stuff, just take your time. Like you said, take your time, price it out, see what you want to get for it. Unless you just don't care and you're just all right. See you later.
Right. I have to show this comment. That was the first card that came to mind. And not just because of how much that card means to me, but I know how excited you were when you got that card.
Oh
So
yeah,
we're going to come back to that card in just a few minutes here, by the
yeah,
way. You end up doing a deal that is going to allow you to, get the cards gone, get the money that you need. So the cards are gone. And when you, like, when you decided to say, you said you're going to pick a couple back up. What was the first card in your head? First couple cards, you're like, I know he hasn't sold those yet. I need to go back and get them.
just right on that.
Yeah,
Write
exactly,
that comment right there.
exactly. I knew it. I knew it.
There's the big three to me were getting the holographics, the stand and deliver red, and the quantum leap. Like
Attaboy.
those three, I just wanted back. Like I was like,
Good.
why did like I should have just held on to those because
Right.
I kept my epics run. I was able to keep that whole entire run. For some reason, like he wasn't really interested in it because I priced those kind of high, and he's like, well, I really don't think I could get, the value for those. Like what you're saying these are worth, like I don't think they're worth that much. So I'm like, all right. Like he's like, why don't we just take a little off the price and you can just hold on to them because I know you value them more than than he's going to value them. So
Right.
like I was able to keep that run with the unreleased ones as well. So
Good.
So
Yeah.
that would have been the first thing I would wanted back if I hadn't held on to that. But yeah,
Right.
the next one were those those big three.
Good. Good. Well, I mean, I especially like again, that's why for me it would be I would have when I am out, when I'm saying that I'm out, I'd have to be like completely out. I'd have to stop talking about cards, like
Yeah.
baseball cards, especially to anybody that knew. Like for instance, can you imagine if I had to sell the Quantum Leap? Like anybody in here that knows how hard and how like I went after that card and how much I wanted it when I finally got it. Oh man, that would be soul crushing. It really would because of all the memories tied to that card and how excited your friends were for you and
Yeah.
so I'm quite pleased that that card is in your possession. Those cards are in your possession again.
I was too. Like
Yeah.
I said, that and just thinking, all right, if I have just a few of these cards, like I have a small little box, then I'll be good. Like just like my top 10 or 15, like ones I can really look at and be like, all right, I'm so happy that I still have these in my collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And it's funny because like on your YouTube channel, I was checking out your top 50, and I'm like, all those are gone. Like, because that was a very motivational video for me to do one. To do an A-Rod video, and a lot of people followed suit. I know Alan did. I know Ray did some, and so it was really cool to see how that spearheaded things, and then to know that they're gone. But I have this question here, and I am very curious. Obviously, people can find your cards on eBay. Funny enough to say that some of your collection. What was it like seeing cards that you were very keen on getting sold on the secondary market? Like when you didn't win those auctions back. Uh, was it kind of like okay, like time to refocus this collection, just kind of pick up some ones I like and not be this massive super collector? Is that kind of how it went when you started seeing some of those cards sell to other people?
Honestly, it was kind of refreshing. Like I didn't have regrets on anything that I lost out on because I picked up, you know, I was able to pick up probably maybe 35 to 40 of the ones I really wanted back.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like I really wasn't too upset seeing the ones I lost out on because I would have gone after them harder, I think, if I
Right.
really, really wanted them. And like it was kind of nice to see some of the stuff that a lot of the game use stuff and things like that stuff that I just picked up to pick up, like either because I got a good deal on it or just because I wanted to add it to the list of the
Right.
collection. Like seeing those on eBay, I'm like, I don't have the inkling to go after those. Like it was kind of a refreshing thing in a way. Like my mindset changed. All right, I'm only going to pick up stuff that I'm really going to actually look at and enjoy, not
Right.
pick up stuff just to pick up stuff. And that's what I was kind of doing in the past with the Ripken collection. Anything that I didn't have was one of those things like I'm just gonna, I'll get that today because there's nothing else. There's nothing else out there that I want, so this is available. So,
Right.
but yeah, seeing all the ones that were listed, like some of them I could have cared less about, and it was a nice feeling to have, honestly.
That's that's a really interesting point that you make, and like you're saying, it's almost like a blessing in disguise, man. It really
Yeah.
was, and to be able to, because my last main question here is just, like, is that how you would say your collecting is differed so much from before? Like when you were on the podcast last time, is it just you're just going after cards that you enjoy looking at? I mean, have you branched out a little bit into other players just because you have the opportunity to do so?
I have, like I said, I think in the I forget which group it was, but like we were listing the players we collect, and I put Cal Ripken
Right.
and anything shiny that catches my eye. Like that was
So
kind of
all the
like,
90s then.
yeah. So that was kind of like, I don't know. I've gone through a couple like different spurts of like things that I've wanted. I'm a big Red Sox guy, so I started picking up like game use patch cards of Red Sox players, and I was doing that. I did that for a little bit, and they were relatively cheap, and it's cool to get a Nomar or an Ortiz or a Manny like
Right.
patch card, and I'm like, oh, these are far cheaper than a Ripken patch would be. So
Right.
like I was having fun doing that a little bit, and then I started like, well, it'd be kind of cool to get some Game Use Hall of Fame guys, and so I started scrolling through some of those, and like opening your collecting mindset is like there's a lot of stuff out there that you previously weren't looking at, and like it kind of catches your eye and like, oh, that's really cool. Like I've missed out on that all these years because I've been so like
Yeah.
super focused on just Cal Ripken stuff.
Mm.
So it's kind of fun to do that. Like I think you can get caught up in like getting too spread out too, and like not having any type of direction either. But
That it's very easy to
I
do
don't want to get
that,
into
dude.
that either. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is just like shiny object after squirrel after
Yeah.
shiny object over
But
and over.
like you're going out with the glass nows and the hockey cards. Like you got a couple different branched out ventures you're going after at the same time. Like,
Yes, and there could
but
be many more.
yeah,
You know how it is. I mean,
yeah,
Ray put a comment down here, and I, if you don't mind, let's touch on this for just a minute. Ray says, most of us are going to have to go down this bridge at some time. That's quite true. I mean, eventually we will, unless we pass them down, or even when we do pass them down to our children or whoever, they need to know about them too. I think it reminded me of the idea, and when I sold my Ichiros, funny enough, toward the end of selling them, I got in contact with a guy who him and his sons are they love Ichiro, and
yeah,
they just decided to collect. It was so fulfilling to me. I mean, obviously the money is great, but it was so fulfilling to know that they were going to enjoy the cards like I enjoy the hockey cards I got with that money, and I wanted to ask you, did you reach out or have the chance? I mean, because I know you didn't have much time, but did you have a chance to reach out to any of those Ripken guys that you've had the chance, Chuck and Will and other guys that before selling, or was it one of those things like, hey guys, these cards are going to be on the market eventually, please look out for them? Did you have a chance to do that at all?
I wanted to. I really like, especially especially the guys I'm kind of closer within the Ripken groups and stuff. Like I wanted to let them know, like, all right, I'm gonna be unloading all this stuff, but at the same time, like I know, like I didn't have the time to just be like, all right, here's I know I don't have a list together of stuff that I have. You guys know some stuff I have. Like it would have been a back and forth. It would have gone on for weeks. So
Right.
I figured the best thing for me to do is I sold it just to the dealer, and right after I told those guys, I'm like, all right, I just sold this out. Like here's the dealer's name. Like here's his contact info. Like maybe if you want to work out deals with him before the stuff gets on to eBay, then to go about it that way. And I think Chuck bought a few things off of him. I think Will did
Good.
as well
Okay.
before they. So I was able because I wanted to look out for those guys like to make sure that they got a fair shot. Because
Right.
if I had my way, like, obviously I'd want the stuff to go to people who actually really wanted it and people I know instead of just on the open market to somebody out in Honolulu or Taiwan or something random like that.
Yeah, of course. No, that's great, and it was great too because Ray got a couple of those Ichiros as well, and I mean knowing that it's going to people who are going to absolutely love the cards and aren't grabbing them just to wait a little bit and sell them. Not that that's bad, but I think for us we appreciate people that love the cards. And I got one more question. It just came to my mind. Did you find somebody close to you? Because knowing how much you had, thinking about you packaging all that up and sending it out at once, there's no way. I mean, that would be just like massive. Was it somebody within your driving distance that you sold it to?
It was. So it was SMR Collectibles. Yeah, Steve Rosenblum was the guy that I sold
Mm-hmm.
to, and he's out of New York. And like I'd bought some stuff off him in the past, and he sends out like this, and a newsletter through eBay. I don't know even how he got my mailing email address, but I'd see, from time to time like his emails, and like I'd see, oh, I buy collections. I'm like, oh, cool. Like I never thought about it before, but then like for some reason that clicked into my head. So like he was the first one I contacted. I'm like, hey, like are you interested in buying off a Ripken collection? He's like, oh, what you got in there? And so we got to talking, and yeah, so I ended up he was doing like a tour through like New Jersey and then Massachusetts. So I'm like, all right, why don't we finally figured out the whole deal.
Yeah.
It was kind of sketchy. I mean, so I loaded up the whole Ripken collection in my truck and met him like a hotel parking lot or whatever. You know,
That's
he's,
funny.
I don't know if I'm gonna get jumped by some random guy. Like, no one's gonna jump me for my Ripken collection, but he's probably thinking I have this huge envelope of cash. Like, I don't know if this kid's gonna jump me. So it's like one of those things like you're
That's
feeling each
funny.
other out, like going through cards in a parking lot to make sure like everything's there, like we agreed on,
Yeah.
and like he's got the cash. Like it's just it was kind of funny transaction, but
It's
I was
funny.
just hoping I didn't get pulled over, like coming home, and the cops like, "Why do you have this big stack of cash on you?" I'm selling baseball cards, not drugs, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. Sure you are, right.
Baseball cards, huh? Yeah,
Is that what they call it now? Yeah.
that's what the kids are calling it these
Yeah,
days.
that's right. That's right. Well, I just found that to be fascinating because just doing something like that on that scale, knowing, I mean, 3,500 Ripken cards is pretty
Yeah,
substantial.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, just that whole journey, man. I think we've often, any of us, any collector that has, whether you have 5 cards or 5,000 different cards, we've all thought, especially with the way the market's just been this year, we've definitely considered it at least a couple times, even for only 10 seconds or a minute. I think we've
yeah,
all considered and thought about, okay, what would that be like? Like A, what's it worth? But B, what would that whole process be like? And you had to do it a bit unorthodox, I would say, just having to boom, gone. I got to get this project done. That's it. I'm out.
yeah. Like
Man,
I was kind of forced my hand to do it, but like there's so many people with so many different reasons on getting out of the game, so to speak. Um, like with the coronavirus, like people have been out of work for weeks, months. Like maybe they needed the cash, or although it doesn't seem like anybody was really selling, everyone was buying throughout this whole thing. But
right. But there was a lot that was listed. You and I spoke about that. I feel like when you were doing the Zenith cards, we were talking about how, hey, be on the lookout. We thought it was going to be cheaper, but it ended up being 10 times more expensive. Maybe not that much, but twice as expensive. And there was tons of stuff showing up. I mean, I saw some A rods that none of the big ones, but some of these like middle of the road that just haven't shown up ever.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it was definitely a buyer's market though, wasn't it? Man, goodness, that everything
it
was out
was.
there.
Like some people were unloading, and other people were like, "All right, I'm getting this stimulus money,
Yeah,
so let's go to town." So
yeah, it was
it was
wild, man.
it was surreal. Yeah.
Well, before we get to the rapid fire, and I was thinking about not doing that, but then I realized, I mean, you've kind of been slowly, as you said, you can be picking up Ripkins again, but you've also been dabbling in other areas. Like where are you headed then for 2021? Like now that you've sold out and you've kind of bought some cards back, what is your, are you sticking to this? Anything that is shiny that I like the look of, I'm gonna pick it up.
I would say yes to an extent. I don't want to get to that point where I was with my Ripken collection, like buying stuff and just not being able to enjoy it because
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my bank account. I'm like, why did I just do that? Like, why did I spend a month's worth of rent on a card? Like, it's just, you don't want to be in that situation. And like, I've been enjoying what I've been doing. Like, I've been lucky enough to come across some good stuff recently because of a couple other big collectors selling out. Like it's been a weird point. Like everything's kind of lined up in a sense, like for me to be able to grab more than I thought I was going to, like stuff that I wasn't going to be able to see for a long
Right.
time. Like all of a sudden everything's just fallen into my lap. I'm like, whoa, like this popped up, this guy's selling this, like stuff that I didn't think I would be able to obtain in the next 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden just kind of fell into my lap in a sense. And
Right.
but in terms of going forward, I would say like I'm not going to try to get the bulk of, I'm not going to try to build that mass collection like I did before. It's like I'm still going to be grabbing stuff that catches my eye. This stuff some rare stuff, and I don't know. I
That's
really
good.
don't have I probably should have a somewhat of a goal in mind so I don't just go 100 different directions like in the past. But
Right.
right now,
No,
it's still up in the air.
but it sounds like you are in a way you do have a direction. Like you're just not going to go as crazy with just buying everything. Like there's not that completionist mindset that
No,
I mean
yeah,
many of
that's
us
one thing
have.
that
You
yeah,
know.
that completionist mindset is kind of gone, which is a very good thing in terms of just trying to get as much as you can.
Right.
Like, getting one or two cards is completely different than having a 50 or 100 card mail day in a month. Like, it's
That's right.
a little different.
Feel like you enjoy every single card in your collection a lot more now, don't you, than before?
Right now, yeah. Like I said, I was able to grab a good amount of stuff from another collector that was kind of selling his stuff out, and I was able to hand pick, kind of have the first pick of the litter of the majority of the stuff that I wanted out of his collection. So, like, every single card I grabbed was stuff that, that I'd sold that I wanted back from that was in his collection, or stuff I hadn't seen
Right.
for sale for a while. I was able to get too. So yeah, everything that I got, I actually really enjoyed. And I've
Question
been,
from Ray for you, by the way. I don't actually think I know the answer.
probably since like 93, 94. Like, I had one other buddy growing up that collected cards in my whole town. So it was him and I.
Mm-hmm.
He was a McGuire guy, and somehow I gravitated towards Ripken because he was a shortstop and I was a shortstop. And yeah, I ended up with like a little more Ripken cards and other. I was collecting everybody at the time when I was, a young kid. And then this whole streak thing happened back in '95, and I was hooked from there on. Like, I was like, this is awesome. Like,
Right. Did you take a hiatus at all, like many of us did around college, or did you just keep on collecting through that?
um, for maybe like a couple years, I did like I was buying a lot of boxes in like the early 2000s for some reason, like the late '90s, early 2000s. I was breaking a lot of like boxes first coming out, like
Okay.
the Flair Showcase. I was opening a whole bunch of that stuff for some reason.
It's a
Like,
good
not
product to open.
yeah. I pulled a Todd Helton one. That was my best pull
Oh
ever.
my gosh.
The Rose
Wow.
Zero was awesome, but yeah. So I stopped for a little while. I didn't unload anything. I was still buying like right out of college too. Like, when you got an apartment and you're not making a lot of money at your job, so you're trying to make ends meet. You're not buying as much either, so
Right.
I slowed down a little bit back then. And the market was different. You're buying $5 and $10 cards as opposed to, like,
Right.
or as Tyler would say, a dollar card.
Yeah, right. Everything's a dollar, dude. And, I
Yeah,
mean, if the wife's, especially when the wife's listening to the podcast, oh, a couple bucks, no big deal.
yeah,
Um, but that man, that really adds to like the gravity of the selling the collection. I mean, having cards that you've had since you were young. I mean, you and I are pretty similar in age, and I'm just trying to think like if that Joey Cora card ever left my possession, I'd be just heartbroken, man.
yeah.
That card won't leave. I don't care. I could sell everything, but that one card will never leave. Um, but man, that's cool though. I mean, it's super interesting to kind of like you know review it all. You selling your entire collection, while it was really, I think, shocking to a lot of us that didn't know the backstory, it almost was beneficial to you in a way and helpful for you to kind of find that renewed joy in collecting again. And
It
that's
honestly,
I
yeah.
think that's good, man. I mean, is that how you see it overall?
I do see it that way. Yeah, like, I think it, like you said, it's a blessing in disguise in a way. I think it kind of refocused what I was doing and how I was going about doing it. Um, I might give a shout out, like a shameless plug out to Tanner Jones, his book Confessions of a Baseball Addict. I bought that when he first wrote it, like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And like reading that book, like, I saw a lot of similarities in the way I approach collecting, and I saw a lot of his problems, like what he was facing and running into. Like, I was like, I can really relate to really relate to a lot of this. And so I was like, if he's able to do that and get out and get a fresh start, then like it's possible. So like I said, that book did help me a little bit along the way. I talked to him off and on about it. Like when I was first considering like unloading everything, I'm like, how was the process? So he talked me through it a little bit, and so it was good.
That's a huge part of this community now is there's so many people out there that are willing to help you and guide you through that process, and that's part of the reason I wanted to bring you on, is to get the word out to people that if you're in a position that you have to do something like this, like heed his advice, take your time, get it all priced out, ask, contact Tanner Jones. He'd be more than happy to help you, because Tanner had the same thing happen you did. He sold all his Jose's, and now he's got that briefcase with
now
cards that he loves.
Yeah, his collection's better than it ever was before, like before he sold all that stuff. So it came full circle for him, and like I feel like I'm kind of getting that way in a way as well. Like it's a good feeling to have, like knowing that you can start fresh and then get stuff back that you really want.
Right. I love that. That's a great comment right there. And then, of course, couldn't be more true, right? Oh man, that's great. Yeah, dude. Well, that makes me happy to hear, Andy, because I think we share similar passion in collecting. I think maybe you obviously having to collect a guy that has 40 years of cards, it can get a little bit more intense than I have approached the A-Rod, collecting landscape. But one thing I do want people to see is some of the cards that you still have and that you have been able to acquire. I've seen just a little smidge of what you've been able to pick up, and we've chatted a little bit about, I've got some cool cards. Why don't we give you a chance to show some of that off? You are a collector still, so excluding the three big Ripkens that, like, you're the big three that you brought back, since I want to direct people to your YouTube channel, because I know you're going to be doing a video here right at the end of before the end of the year, kind of showing off those Ripkens that you have still.
I think so. I was gonna do like a pickup video of a good amount of stuff. But I don't care. I can.
Well, let's see. Can we see three of them? Three of your favorite pickups that you've had since you kind of came back into collecting.
Sure. I'll start off with one I got in today.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Horrible slow mail service recently.
Oh, dude, it's been brutal.
Got it's hard to pick up. The precious metals, the 1997 Donruss Preferred Platinum. These are out of 100. These are actually real full platinum cards. Beautiful. I think 1 full gram of platinum. So I got that in the mail today. Let's see. I showed this off a little while back. This the certified gold team.
Oh yeah, nice.
This is one of the unreleased ones. It's hard to pick up on camera, but there's rumors of only 2 of these being in existence. I mean, these are really nice in person. Like, I love the how that circle goes in and out.
Yep, got that Dufex action going on.
Yeah, it's got nice Dufex to it as well.
That's an Andy Burkett special right there, if I've ever seen one.
And then this is probably my favorite pickup up to date. Is the really need to get a good.
I know, we got to get you like a headlamp on the other side there. That card has terrible lighting. Look how good it looks.
Yeah. I got this off of Barry, and he sent me a little tease video of him. Like, he captured it perfectly. He was twisting it back and forth. I'm like, all right, you got me. Like, what do you want with this?
I heard people in the 90s group love videos like that. Have you heard that?
So that was
perfect.
That was a good one.
Oh man. Well, I got a little hot in here, so I need another drink of water after seeing those three. My goodness. I mean, I don't know if this qualifies for. Have you been able to find any steals? Find any steals since you came back in, or have you
I
been?
have.
Okay.
So this is probably my best steal I've got, other than the Peter Max autographed Ripken. I mean, autograph that I got a long time ago in a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was randomly in a lot. This is probably like my best bargain. I feel like was it's a Babe Ruth mirror black game used from 2003, 1/1.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I ended up like I put out a decently high bid on it, what I thought was high, and then it ended up going for half of what my max bid was.
Dang.
I paid, it was like $311, I think, total for that.
That's
like for Babe Ruth 1/1 from 2003, like a mirror black. Like it was,
right.
I don't know. I was really, really excited to get that.
I remember when you showed me that. That was pretty sweet, dude.
I really didn't think I had a chance of winning the auction, so I'll just throw it, I'll throw it a decent bid. Like I'll be happy if I win it for this, and then, like I said, I won it for half of what I bid. I was like, there's no way that the seller's going to say it's out of stock or something, or they're not going to let me have it for that price, I'm sure, but they did.
I've only had it happen once where somebody canceled an auction because it sold for too cheap. And anyway, I try not to talk about that. I still love the card. I ended up getting it, but you do worry about that when you get such a good deal. And most of the sellers are pretty good about, hey, if you throw it up for auction, man, you're playing the market, hoping it works out. But I like how that's an actual game used piece. A lot of that memorabilia of Ruth, quote unquote memorabilia, is like game used bench seats and stuff like that. Like, oh, good, he sat on this piece of wood.
Maybe.
Oh, sweet.
He might have.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a pair of his pants. So that's kind of cool. Like, there can't be too many like pairs of pants out there. There's a lot of jerseys, but in terms of like game used pants, there's probably not too many.
That's awesome, dude. That card is ridiculous. By the way, do you like the big pro mold holder? Because I'm about to get a few for some Young Guns. So
I do. I mean, this one. Yeah, this isn't even the pro. It's got the screw.
That's the 1/2 inch thick one, yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
It came with it. I was like, this is a little big, but it's it does the job, especially for that card. I'm like, I'm not taking it.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, that's good. I guess that one might qualify for this question too. Is there anything else that you would say is the most unexpected card that you're looking at over there besides the Ruth? Like, can't believe I have this.
Well, it's funny because I was, in terms of unexpected, like this is one of those out of the blue. Like I saw something shiny, so I went after it.
Okay.
It was late night. I was coming back from a side job. Like I was starving, so I was like, I'm going to Taco Bell. Like I need some Taco Bell in my life. So I'm sitting in the drive-thru. I'm like, there's a decent line. So I'm like, let me just, once in a while when I'm bored, I'll just like type in baseball card and go on
Wow.
like the auction and see which auctions are ending soonest. So like it's like a rapid fire. Everything starts like 30 seconds left, so I'll have to start scrolling real fast.
Right.
And if I see anything that's really low price, like that, or catches my eye, I'm like, oh, I can get this right now. It's like a little, I don't know. It's a little.
The addiction is pulling you back in, dude.
So I'm like, woo. So I see this guy, the unreleased, the Pinnacle Certified Mirror Platinum Gold Jeter. It's hard to pick up again, and it was number 2, his jersey number 2 of 30.
Oh, man.
So they're pretty sure that all 30 of these were really like made their way out to the public, but still for like a 1998, like you know how much I love like the unreleased Pinnacle stuff from '98. Yeah. Like I saw that, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw it. Like it was a 30-second decision. I'm like, I'm gonna hit a bid on it right now, and I end up winning. That Taco Bell drive-through cost me a decent amount of money.
Wow. Well, I hope it tasted good, man. I mean, I don't know about afterwards, the aftermath of eating Taco Bell, but we don't have to talk about that.
No, but that was like an unexpected like surprise. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
I do want to say this. I have to tease this. Nice to have you here, Josh. I'm going to be interviewed by Ryan at the very end of the month, and I will have a chance to talk about a couple of those. So thanks for tuning in and asking that question. But this is so true. They just keep pulling you in. I have to try so hard not to be like, okay, SB Authentic Future Watch goalies or something, and I just click on auctions to see what's ending. It's like, don't bid, don't bid. You know,
Yeah.
it's very, very hard. It's very hard. But that's awesome, dude. What a cool story. What a cool story. And involving Taco Bell and a Jeter card. Never thought I'd hear those two things put together. I think I'm going to skip this question because I think it's the most obvious answer. The biggest disappointment of 2020 is I'm sure there's some cards that you don't have that you still miss, right?
There is, yeah. I had a card. I didn't know, like
If you want to show a card for that question. No,
the direction of the question. Yeah, I had a
Yeah,
card
go for it.
for that. This was one I didn't even know I had. Like, it was still kicking around in a box somewhere. Like, I thought that it went with the collection, but I got this before I sold it off. It was so I got this, the Back to the Future, Paul Konerko and Ripken, and I thought for some reason the first 100 were signed by both guys, and on the auction, it was only this part. So
no.
This is the only picture. So I'm like, oh, Konerko. Like, maybe not many people saw this since it's Paul Konerko, but I know Ripken's on the back of it, and I know that the first 100 are autographs. I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, I'm gonna get this dual auto for cheap. And it was a seller out of Germany. So I waited for like a month for the card, and it comes in, and I look at it, I'm like, it's only Konerko signed on the back. I'm like, oh.
Okay,
So
no.
that was like a disappointment. I mean, I should have done my due diligence to find out that both guys weren't autographed, but.
But hold the phone. I thought that the first 100 are always autographed by both guys. I mean, in the hockey set that I have a Tebow of that card, and he and Mark Denis signed both sides, and it's number. I think you have another Andy Burkett special. I think it's supposed to be autographed, isn't it?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. Like, I honestly thought it was. But I saw another one like this with only Konerko on the back. It was number 6, I think, out of 1,500 or whatever. So
That's
I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe that's one question I got to pose to the group.
I was going to say the best resource is the 90s group. I mean, you got Rodney and like 20 other guys that know those by heart. Bruce will probably know as well. I'm curious because, again, thankfully I was able to find the duel that I was looking for. But as far as I know, all the A-Rods and Nomars, they're on the same card. Everyone I've seen has both of their autographs on it. So, yeah. I mean, of course, you would find that card, unfortunately, but maybe fortunately.
I know, it was just funny, like, because I was pumped. I'm like, oh, nice. Like, nobody saw this because, I'm like, all right, I'm getting a Ripken autograph and a Konerko autograph. Technically out of 100, and then it rolls in. It's just Konerko. I'm like, oh, come on.
I wonder if just that. Have you seen a picture of the card with both autographs on it?
I haven't really looked for one. Like I said, I saw there's one other one on eBay right now without Ripken autographed on it. I think it's still up there, but yeah.
Okay, that really makes me wonder if like they never got his autograph on there. That's really interesting. That makes me want to go do research.
I'll have to do research on that.
Leave it to having Andy Burkett on the show and me wanting to learning something new about 90s that I never thought I would want to know or did know. So that's awesome, dude. I do want to ask this. Ray asked another one. I mean, real quick. Some yes, some no.
Yes, like getting the big 3 that I wanted back. I had to pay a little over. Probably, I paid more than what I probably originally paid for them. And in terms of the auctions, like Ripken stuff, Ripken stuff right now has been doing pretty well, just like everything else has.
Right.
So I'd say premium wise, yes. I'm paying a little bit more for stuff. like the stuff I was able to get from Carlos, like it wasn't like we worked out a fair deal for that stuff, so I wasn't getting price gouged on really
Right.
anything. Like
Okay.
the essential credentials, I think I paid a couple $100 for that a while back, and then the last one just sold for almost $600. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah. That's good point, Josh.
I
Yep.
would say yes, he certainly did.
For sure. For sure. All right. So that was an awesome answer for biggest disappointment, and now we just learned something new about '90s inserts in the process. So, um, I mean, not then obviously, but now, how would you summarize the collection that you've amassed in the last couple of months of picking up cards? How would you summarize that to us?
I would summarize like I have a good little like core of stuff that I really like. Like
Okay.
I can go through. I probably have maybe 150, 200 cards right now but I'd say almost every single one of those is something I could look at any time, like, oh, this is cool. Like I could just go through all of them and not get bored looking at those certain ones. And that's kind of how I want my collection to be. I don't
Okay.
want to be siphoning through a bunch of early 90s commons and then come across one that I like and then look through a whole bunch more and then like for my collection I want to go through every single card, whether it's 10 cards, whether it's 10,000 cards, but I want each one of those cards to like have a meaning and like be something I really like to look at.
That's awesome, Andy. That's awesome. And again, the purpose of these interviews is this whole idea of food for thought for collectors, and I think it's this episode's been packed full of that, and something that Ryan Scripter and Brent really harped on. My first two guests, they talked about getting rid of some things because like that they weren't cards that they got excited about looking at. They just were popular
Yeah.
amongst collectors. So yeah, it's awesome to see that you've kind of come to that realization. Do you have any cards in your collection right now that you would say are the most sentimental? Do you have a card maybe that's the most sentimental card in your collection?
I found, yeah, I got one I mean, it's technically kind of cheating since it's not technically a 90s card.
Ah,
It's a little older than 90s, but it's Ripken. It's got the 90s feel to it anyway. This was, I think, '08 Upper Deck with Ripken, DiMaggio, and Williams. Like, Ted Williams was my grandfather's favorite player of all time. And he handed me down his one piece of memorabilia that he had was an autographed Ted Williams card. And so, like, I have that. And, like, I have an autographed Joe DiMaggio card. Not card, but paper that's made out to Andy. Like I found that on eBay a while back. So my plan was to get this card framed along with the autograph of Williams and DiMaggio and Ripken. Like, so I wanted to kind of like have that as a kind of memento in a way of my grandfather and stuff like that.
I want to see that happen. I'm
Yeah.
counting on you to either A, build it yourself, or B, have it custom made for the card. That'll be really cool, man. I do want to show this too. Something that I'm curious about. Are you planning on kind of getting your YouTube channel going again?
I am. Yeah. Like I would like to make more videos. Like I haven't made one in a while with everything that went down and and not having any cards. Like I'm not gonna make a video without any cards in it.
Talk about the epics again.
Yeah, yeah. So many times I can rant and rave about those before people get sick of it. So yeah, I am planning on making a few more, like some more mail day videos. Might do a couple set runs like that. Like I said, I like going over the sets that are kind of confusing to collectors and like
Yeah.
are underrated that not many people know about because they're confusing. And I like to
Right.
go over those. Like, so I got a few ideas in mind in the near future of making a few more videos.
Let me pull up your channel real quick if that's cool, just so I can kind of give people an idea of what they can find there. I keep forget. I gotta remember to put in Andrew Burkett instead of Andy because
Is that what it's under? I
yeah, it is.
I don't even remember.
It is. And then I have a question while I'm sharing this. Are we gonna see guest appearances from the cat behind you during the videos again?
She is, yeah, she's asleep over on the bed right now. But I'm
Uh,
surprised she hasn't made an appearance right now.
that's funny. Well,
I
here's
could go
here's the
grab.
YouTube channel. uh, I definitely recommend anybody watching to go check out. I love how the toilet ended up being the
Oh yeah,
thumbnail. that's so, that's good stuff. The video is better than a toilet, I promise. So this is why, if everybody wants to see why he sold everything, this is the reason why. But then this was I think the Epics video was the first one that I watched of yours, and then you just you went through the finest set, and then you did the top 50, and then the ball got rolling, and then you've got some really cool mail days in here. This was a fun one too, the game use collections, because I remember you pulled up this one jersey on here that I actually like of Rick Ankiel, and hey Ron, you're like, this is the worst game use card I have ever seen. Like, it was,
SP Authentic 2001, I think.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because like when you take the card out, you can like get the texture. I'm like, oh, this card feels cool. Like I want to find a gold out of 50, which I just cannot track down.
Yeah.
Because there were one per pack. But anyway, I do want to say that it's definitely worth checking out Andy's channel, and he does a good job of kind of going through a couple of those, especially the epics. I think I went back and watched that 3 or 4 times in the process of, okay, wait, that card is how much? Like the Moment's purple. I got that card for $5. I'm like, why was it so cheap? And you're like, there's only 60 of them. Like,
Yeah.
but they're not numbered, so people don't know. So, yeah, Andy, I think you're a great resource on your YouTube channel, and I hope that you continue doing more of that style of video, educating people on those cards, especially like the if you did a video on the misprint, parallels like the All or Nothings, or like the Pacific card that you were talking about. I think that would be really cool to see.
That would be fun. Yeah, that would be a fun little run to do. I'll keep that in mind.
Sure. Awesome. Just trying to motivate you. I like seeing some my Cal Ripken videos show up. Okay, last couple questions here. Right now, what's the most exciting thing for you as far as the hobby or collecting?
I would say, I mean, the most exciting thing in the hobby is just to see people back into it. Whether, I mean, a lot of it is misdirected, and like a lot of people are just going after the modern stuff and getting in it to make money. But it's fun to see cards actually in the mainstream media. Like I'm seeing articles pop up about cards, like I've never seen them before. It's funny. Like you see CNN like doing a little snippet on cards, or
right,
an investment firm like talking about cards. Like it's nice to see that stuff being talked about again, because it's a trickle down effect. Like people are gonna learn about the 90s more too. Like the more they delve into it, if you're in it to make money, you're gonna try to do some research, and maybe some of those people will realize, oh yeah, this is kind of fun. Like I'm not gonna do this just to make money. I'm gonna start collecting stuff that I want.
right.
So that's kind of like it's nice to see, I think.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's awesome, dude. I love that you said that too. Collect what you enjoy, collect what you want, not what's popular. And it's hard not to do that, because I think humans were just so easily influenced by others' opinions more than ever nowadays. And so if people are saying Mike Trout is the guy to go for, I think the general public is like, oh, I should be buying Trout cards now, rather than.
Yeah. Do you want those Trout cards? Like you enjoy, like, yeah, if you're in it to make money, then be my guest. Go do that. But if you're like us, like, yeah, I don't want my collection to be worthless. I don't want to take a bath in my collection, but I'm not doing it to turn around and sell it for a profit, because most of the time you're going to get disappointed if you do that.
Right. And it is a tough thing to decide to do. I definitely moved a few cards during this pandemic because the value increased by so much. There's a couple I miss. But I don't turn around and look at those boxes and wish that they were still in there. So I feel that I can be at peace with that, just like you are with the majority of the cards that are no longer in your possession. So, If you could change one thing about the hobby and where it's at right now, what would you say that would be?
I mean, I would say that, like I said, I think a lot of people are just in it to try to make a buck, and you see price gouging, and I don't want to see the cards go shoot down in value where everything's $1, but it's, like I think the bubble's gonna pop at some point, and like I think it's just going up and up and up in a severely quick and crazy amount of time where you can't pick up as much stuff as you wanted in the past because of those prices going so high so soon.
I agree with that, and I know Alan. He's in here right now in the chat, and I know he is often talked about that. He's gonna actually be my last interview before I hop on with Ryan and do mine. So it'll be fun to listen to that in more depth because Alan is like you. He's got a small amount of bonds that he really likes rather than like just getting everything because like Cal Ripken bonds his everything. So
Yeah.
I think hopefully people watching this will pick up on what you're saying, Andy, and just be like, maybe I should just kind of focus in on the cards that I really like rather than just being this completionist kind of thing. Not that that's bad, but it's very hard to sustain that in today's market if that's the goal that you have.
You don't want, like you say, you don't want to lose the passion of collecting. Like that's the whole point of collecting, is to do it because you enjoy it. You want to do it, and it's enjoyable. And when that becomes not enjoyable, then you got to look at and see why it's not enjoyable, and see if that's something you could fix.
Well, a good thing that you kind of fixed that without maybe really being ready to do it, but it just kind of presented itself, boom, and you hopped on the opportunity. If we could say, I know that I love sending this question out to people because it gives them time to like really decide on one. But if money wasn't an option, and you could pick up one card right now, what would that one card be?
That is a tough one. I don't know why. I don't know why the Crusade Red doesn't do it for me. I would say probably the 96 certified golds of Ripken. Maybe those would be at the top of the list, or just I'd say the complete run of the unreleased stuff from Pinnacle 98.
There you
All
go.
of it. Certified, select, all of it. Can I bundle that into one card?
We're gonna say that it's gonna show up in one big lot purchase. So
Yes,
instead of one
exactly.
card, one purchase.
Every single unreleased Pinnacle from 98 of Ripken just is gonna show up in one big package at my doorstep.
I do feel like while I'm sure Chuck and Will would appreciate those. Again, I feel like you would appreciate those just that little bit more because that's your cup of tea, man. You love that, and you just think about the videos you could do with having that whole run. Yeah. Oh man, that would be
just
amazing to see.
Those mirror golds and mirror blues and mirror blacks, like that were never out into the world. Like there was some real nice stuff.
Yeah, never breaking news. The whole unreleased Pinnacle run shows up and Andy has to sell his truck, sell every Ripken card he owns, and just to get those. Hopefully that doesn't happen. That would be a shame.
If anyone wants to mail it to me as a care package, I'll send you my address afterwards.
Oh, geez, that would even if one of those showed up, you'd just fall out. You just drop right. You'd faint right there on the next to the post office box. Well, hey, before I get to the final question, Andy, I do want to say thanks for taking the time to come here and really just kind of educate us on what it was like and what it would be like if any of us would have to do what I typed in our questions, the unthinkable, and move the entire lot of everything that we have. But I do say that this has actually been a pleasant interview for me too, because it's been enlightening and you've actually come out of the wash in a sense, feeling better about collecting than I think you did when we talked last. Would you say that's true?
I would say that, yeah. Like it wasn't that easy. Like trust me when I say it. Like you have some down moments when you're getting rid of it all. Don't get me wrong. But all in all, I think it's worked out well for me the way it all went down. So I can't say that I have any complaints or regrets on how I went about doing it. Like I said, I could have made a lot more money if I had gone about it a different way and done it and taken my time to sell it. But like I said, it wasn't in the cards for me. No pun intended.
Well, I've certainly made some mistakes just with maybe not with cars, but like going to school, going to college for way
Yeah.
too much, and I felt like I need to do my due diligence and educate others so they don't make that mistake. And maybe you can sleep a little bit better at night knowing that your experience and sharing it with all of us will help us make the right decision. When that day, if and when that time comes. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. Well, if you could summarize this interview up in one word, because I do post them at the beginning of all the interview videos on YouTube, what word would you say you would use to summarize everything we talked about today?
Ooh. I didn't really think about that. I would say refreshing, I guess.
Okay,
Like I
nice.
said, it's been a long, weird run of 2020. And now that I'm at this place as opposed to like 3 or 4 months ago where my head was at, like it is. It's refreshing to be able to take a step back and take a breath and be like, all right, this isn't. It's
Right.
not so bad. Everything's getting a little bit better.
Well, I can tell that you enjoy your cars more. I think that's pretty obvious for anybody that's watching, or for me interviewing you, is that you seem more enthusiastic about collecting again, and I could kind of see that when when you posted the Jeter. I'm like, oh, okay, Andy's got kind of a new direction here, and little did I know Taco Bell had a lot to do with that Jeter, but now I do. But yeah, that's great, Andy. I mean, it's always nice to see collectors who you have respect for and that you enjoy talking to find a way to enjoy collecting again. And that's really why I made the decision to focus so much more on hockey, because it's my connection to my dad, and it brings me a lot of joy, and so it sounds like you've kind of had a change of focus in that sense. So it just involves selling 3,500 Ripkins, no big deal. uh, well, thanks again, Andy, for being on. I want to say we've had a great conversation going on in chat. I know you can't see that because you got your phone only up there, but we've had Joshua Tulia, who in here, and we've had Alan in here as well. Big Bonds collector, of course. Ray, you've seen his questions to you, which I appreciate those significant inserts. He's been in here. As well as Schmidt Collector, and who else did we have in here? The Card Closet came in. Amish Dave was here as well. So thanks to everybody for commenting and hanging out and listening to Andy's story, and to anybody that watched this after this live interview. I hope you enjoy it. And again, go find Andy on YouTube, Andrew Burkett. You'll see the link in the chat, and yeah, hit him up. He's a fun guy to talk to for sure. So. Thanks again for everybody that was on here. Thanks to you again, Andy. And I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a great holiday break. See you guys.
Thanks,